For this Figma tutorial, I am simply going to let you know what some of the tools are. There's nothing you need to do to follow along in this one. Just watch and learn. All right, so I am in a Figma design board in which working on a website for an artist, Missy and Marple. Now, the first thing I want to point out is our tools that are in the top left corner. We have, first of all, a move tool, and if we click on the little caret, we can either do move or scale. We're not going to be using scale in this class, just move. So what that would be is if you wanted to click on an element and move it, you could. So let's say I want to move this square here. So I've clicked on it and I can move it. And that way I'm moving an individual element. Now, if I wanted to move the entire kind of scene or view of what I'm looking at, I would choose this hand. And if I do that, I can now move it so I could look at a different part of my Figma design file. I don't really like to use the hand, frankly, so I don't use it all that often. All right, so that was the move tool. This is the frame tool. And a frame tool is what we create in order to build our different web pages. It's almost, I also will sometimes call it an artboard, but it's really a frame in Figma. But if you use Adobe products, you're probably familiar with the term artboard, and I sometimes use them interchangeably. So this means here I'm working on an about page here, but I also have other artboards that I'm working on as well. And if I zoom out, and on a Mac, anything with a trackball or a mouse, I'm just making my screen smaller there. So just kind of with the Mac, you pinch with two fingers on a trackpad, at least on my Mac. And when I want to make it larger, I press those two fingers out. Anyways, so I then can see the other artboards that are here as well. So so I have an artboard here. I had those two artboards, and this as well is an artboard. Now, for changing how much I can see, I could also go up here and change. I could do a zoom in, so I could see more. And I can either do these kind of predetermined zoom in, zoom out, zoom to particular percentage. I could also just come up here and I could click in the number I want if it's not offered. So I could say 75, and then I just hit the return key, and now it's zoomed in. All right, so that is about the frame tool. Then we have a shape tool, and if you hit the little caret next to it, we have all these different shapes we can make, and we'll practice with that in a different tutorial. We can also have a pen tool. We are not going to use the pen tool in this class. And then we have a text tool in which we can put text. So I use the text tool for anything that has words on it. We're not using the component tool at this point, so we're going to ignore it. And then we're going to go down and take a look. This is our layers panel. And so if I click on the word layers here, it will tell me everything that I have on, like for instance, this is this particular frame or artboard, and it tells me all of the different things that are on here. So if I click on about, you can see that about shows up over here. If I click on this group 3, it tells me this is what I'm clicking on. So this is my layers panel. Over on this side, we have ways that we can fine-tune what we're doing. So for instance, if I click on this text box right here, and I click on this Meet Missy Marple information, and if you can see, I have a blue box around it, but also if I go over here in my layers panel, I can see it's there. If I wanted to fine tune it, I could go over to this right hand menu, and I could change the font here. I could change the size of the font. I could change whether it's left aligned, centered, etc. So it gives me options over here in which I can change it. So this right hand menu is for fine-tuning elements that you have on this side. Additionally, if I wanted to change something such as a rectangle, so if you see now with this blue I have a rectangle selected and it says rectangle over here, then I could go over to this right hand menu and I could change elements about the rectangle such as the size. I could change the color, whether or not it has a stroke. A stroke would be an outline, and I could also put effects on it such as a drop shadow. And I do have a drop shadow on this one. If you can see, there's a little shadow underneath the bottom and the right hand side. So these are all things that you can do with this right hand panel to fine tune either your objects or your type, the different elements you have in Figma.